G'day there guys, Marky here, and welcome back to another episode of r/relationship advice. I do hope you enjoyed today's bloody good episode, and with that said, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn to the barbie, and go do your dishes. And watch this episode as well. Let's go! Posted by user Conscious Jacama 2133, titled, Am I the asshole here for leaving my boyfriend because he bought his female best friend lingerie as a joke? My boyfriend, 28 male, and I, 24 female, have been together for a year and a half. I love him a lot, and he's been pretty amazing to me. He's also the sort of person who has lots of friends, and his close friends are pretty much family. He also loves to joke and play these harmless pranks on his friends, which sometimes makes me feel weird. Just for context, he has 2 female friends and 3 male friends. This is about my boyfriend and one of his friends, Claire, 28 female. Claire is a nice woman and we are friendly. My boyfriend also has never ignored me in favor of his friends or talked over me in front of them, which is why I don't understand if I'm in the right or not. They, my boyfriend's friends, had a recently escalated prank fight. I had made it clear to my boyfriend that I'm not good at jokes and am rather stiff, and he said he would keep me out of it. Claire, my boyfriend, and another friend, Kyle, 27 male, even had a huge throwing water balloons fight in Kyle's backyard. Then my boyfriend got pranked with dye in his body wash. Then Kyle got pranked by Claire, something about whipping cream and oven mitts. But the issue was when my boyfriend bought a red lacy lingerie set, and he planned to put it in Claire's room the next time when he went over. I said that it was a tacky prank, and why would he buy lingerie? None of the previous pranks have been of this kind, and it makes me really uncomfortable. I also felt like if I was Claire, I would feel gross about it. But my boyfriend got mad and defensive and told me Claire is just cool like that, and she would think that it's funny. I admit I get a bit weirded out when he calls Claire extremely beautiful and jokes about how she was always been out of his league, but I thought that it was nothing and that they were like family, so I guess it was their thing. However, the lingerie prank had me put my foot down, and I said that he was wrong to give another woman lingerie, no matter who, when he had a girlfriend. We fought, and I said that I wanted to break up, which he didn't want to, and I said that I was just overreacting. He said that I was too conservative and needed to open my mind when he had never given me a reason to be insecure. Claire called me and said that she and my boyfriend have been friends for a long time, and inside jokes are just that, and that I'll learn more with age. I still feel weird about this. My best friend is supportive of me no matter what I do, but I've started to feel like I'm blowing this out of proportion. My boyfriend says that the fact that he told me and didn't hide it from me shows that I am the problem. I've started to feel like I've blown this out of proportion, and maybe it's my fault that I can't take a joke. I really feel awful about this whole thing. Am I the asshole here? Edits. The people asking what the prank is with the lingerie? Apparently it's an inside joke about how during their college days, she had some problems with the color red, and the lingerie would have just given her a shock of some kind, I guess? I told my boyfriend that it was cruel, but he said that it wasn't a trauma thing, just an inside joke. Claire also said over the phone that the lingerie thing was just an inside joke of their college days. In the comments, GingerPrince72 says, Admit I get a bit weirded out when he calls Claire extremely beautiful and jokes about how she's always been way out of his league. The bolded part is pretty dodgy. Also, at 28, these endless pranks are just pretty childish. What a cheek to patronize you. Not the asshole, I'd be moving on personally. Meet a man, not a silly little boy who seems to be in love or lust with his friend. Not the asshole. You aren't blowing this out of proportion. How is buying lingerie and putting it in someone's room a prank that you'll learn with age? There's a 4-year difference between you and Claire. Does she think in 4 years you'll somehow think buying lingerie is acceptable and somehow can be considered a prank? Girl, I'm in my 40s, and I can tell you right now, that would never be an acceptable inside joke or prank. And your boyfriend telling you that you're the problem because he didn't hide it from you is just plain trying to manipulate and gaslight you. You don't need him to agree to dump his ass. You deserve better. Drop him and screw Claire too, though not literally. I mean, if she screwed Claire, it would be a boss move. I was thinking the same thing. You'll learn with age? I'm almost 30 years old. I wouldn't think to tell someone who's only 5 years younger than me that they'll learn something with age. That's effing weird and condescending as hell. OP is not the asshole, but she definitely needs to dump this tool and his entire friend group ASAP. Learn with age is clearly a shitty, condescending comment towards OP, and there's nothing in the post saying that her boyfriend stood up for her either. I'm almost 40 and I don't understand the lingerie prank, except to assume Claire had some period sex issues. If that's the case then, I don't know, kinda gross, but it has zero to do with age. What a witch. Tell Claire that boundaries exist and adults respect boundaries, but it's okay if they don't understand. They'll learn with age. Wow, how condescending was Claire? Not the asshole, and she just confirmed it. Claire knows the ex is in love with her and feeds off it. The ex enjoys her attention too. Not a situation to bring a girlfriend into, ever. This 100%. He was waiting for the day that Claire picks him, which she won't. So he's just screening himself out of ever having a happy long-term romantic relationship. My ex-fiancée was gifted lingerie on Friendship Day by her male best friend. I was extremely uncomfortable. We later broke up due to the fact that it turns out he escalated it to sex at some point afterwards. As a man, no man buys a woman underwear unless he wants to see her in it. You don't buy sexy lingerie as a joke gift. The prank war is just an excuse that gives him deniability because he is a coward. Sounds to me like you struck too close to the truth for his comfort, and he's shocked that his perfect deniability plan didn't work. Yeah, it's just such a dirty situation to be a part of, and I don't blame you at all for leaving him in this one. As much as I'd like to say, oh god, it's so cringe that they're doing that kind of shit, what are with these pranks? I don't know, people still love impractical jokers to this day. I can definitely see friend groups existing, doing similar things to those guys, and that being a normal and acceptable thing. But for me, though, I'd be like, oh god, I'm just gonna have to put up with you and your weird friend group for the sake of this relationship. But when it involves red lingerie like that, what's wrong with you? If it was a weird period sex thing, then stain the bed with tomato sauce or something, you know? Why the red lingerie? What is the prank? Please explain the joke. It's so obvious they couldn't explain the joke in this situation, and that it was so obvious that something was happening there. Even if nothing really was happening because she's not going to let it happen. I want to know what in God's green earth this man was thinking to buy red lingerie for someone that wasn't his girlfriend. I need what he's smoking, please God, not the asshole OP. And now, on to the update. My inbox got flooded with DMs and had to turn off Reddit notifications. When I posted this, I was ready to be called immature and ridiculous and get a couple of comments, but it seemed like the post blew up and the comments were kind of eye-opening. To be honest, before all this fiasco, my boyfriend has always been nice to me. He came with me to my grad school functions even though he found them very boring, but would do it so that I could network. He builds stuff like furniture and helps out with handiwork all the time. He's also very funny, and at the very beginning, I thought all his jokes were funny, and I sometimes wondered why he wanted to be with me. Plus, I was always busy with school and job interviews. His mum and I had even gotten close, and she has always been saying how happy she was that we were together. I had always ignored his and Claire's weird dynamic because I told myself that I was being insecure. I have male friends too, and I thought that just because we aren't like that doesn't mean my boyfriend and Claire can't be close. Claire has also never been outright mean to me. She was just aloof, and I thought it was because I was new to the group. To the actual update, my boyfriend and I broke up. I'm sorry guys, but even after seeing so many replies on how he was cheating, I refuse to believe it. I'm still in love with this guy. And he called me like half a day later after I wrote this post and asked to meet me. I met him, and he said that he understood where I was coming from, but I was always too uptight to understand that friendship is friendship. He and Claire had known each other for years before I came into the picture, and I cannot expect him to just ruin their dynamic. I asked him what sort of dynamic was red lingerie. Why couldn't it literally be any other type of clothing? He told me he had had it with my insecurities, and that he and Claire talked and apparently I was making them sound like cheaters and homewreckers, and that he thought that it was better that I find someone like me who thought the idea of a fun night was junk food and a movie indoors. The immature urge to have junk food and a movie night. God, I'm such a child. That hurt a lot. He'd always known that I had insecurities about being called boring. He always complimented me on how his weaknesses were my strengths. Now he says things like this to me? Also, before this lingerie fiasco, I'd never said a word about his and Claire's friendship. I always supported his pranks and practical jokes, no matter my opinions on them, because I thought that it was his business what he did with his hobbies. And he leaves without even putting up a fight because his girlfriend didn't want him giving lingerie to the woman he constantly refers to as his sexy bestie? Claire didn't call or text after the breakup either, but Kyle did and said that he was sad that we broke up and he hoped that I would be okay in the future. I asked him if my boyfriend ever cheated on me. He said that my boyfriend had only been a one-woman man when he was dating me, but he could understand that some women can't handle female best friends, especially if they look like Claire. I told him to piss off and blocked him. It felt like he only wanted to gloat and hurt me because my boyfriend left. I feel like I never knew these people. Claire and Kyle were always at least decent to me, if not nice. Did it make me a free target now that my boyfriend's been telling his friends that I'm an insecure child? I don't know what to do now. I've been told repeatedly by both my friends and sister that I dodged a bullet, but I've been breaking down like a kid again and again, and I'm even thinking of going to therapy after feeling the most insecure I've felt my whole life. Thank you to all who were supportive. It seems like my now ex-boyfriend just did the work for me. In the comments, an abstract concept says, note how he never addressed the red lingerie and what kind of prank that could possibly be. Just threw a hissy fit about it and blamed you. Never answered the question. You did dodge a bullet. He's a simp for Claire and she's never gonna screw him. He's an idiot. Correct. Much like everyone calling OP insecure and whining about how acceptable it is to gift women you aren't dating lingerie. Telling a woman she's insecure is how men like to gaslight them into accepting inappropriate and disrespectful behavior. Only a pick-me with zero self-respect would think that this was okay. Couldn't agree more. Someone should tell the people in my replies that. I think the other woman is keeping him as a backup in case she can't find anyone better as her fallback. I do hope that she finds someone, leaving him alone and bitter. You know why junk food and movies is so much fun? Because you and the one you love the most are together. Not the asshole, and I hope you find someone who really loves you. Yes, when someone is special, then even the most simple things are lovely and the best together. You did the right thing. You know how I'm sure? Look at how he talked to you when you were breaking up, insulting you in ways that he knew were the most hurtful he could, trash-talking you to all his friends. That is who he is. Those are his true colors. He was only masquerading as a nice guy. Better for you to find out now than years down the road when you, God forbid, got married and he's actually banging Claire behind your back. You will need time to mourn, but remember that you were mourning the man you thought he was. The real him isn't worth mourning. And yes, absolutely go to therapy. Oh man, wouldn't it just be so funny if Claire and I had sex right here? Oh man, that'd be so funny, right? 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 Say it. Say it's funny. If you're too boring and insecure to understand how me banging Claire would be super hilarious for our dynamic, then I'll just have to dump you. I deserve better than someone who thinks me banging this other woman would make me a cheater. I truly can't get over how this dude tried to make her feel like she was prosaic for not getting how cool this dynamic with Claire is. That's an insane amount of just baggage that he dumped onto you there, OP, but better that he reveals his true colors earlier than later. Who knows if he will ever actually bang Claire, and, you know, there's a chance that it's been happening since they were in college together, but it is so good for you that they revealed what they did so you can get out early. I'm just going to keep repeating that one. And yeah, at least this way you can't mourn what could have been, because you know that what would have been would be stinky and decrepit and rotten. That would have been a marriage and relationship built on lies, with the almost guaranteed possibility that there was an emotional affair between those two, if not very likely physical affair, and that's not something that you should subject yourself to or have to be a part of. So still not the arsehole for this one, and, you know, move on from here, OP. You deserve so much better. Our next post is by user JustXander, titled, My friend offered to buy my house for $1. For some backstory, I, 31 female, grew up pretty poor. I don't remember it well, but at one point, my parents and I were only able to afford to eat beans and rice. My parents have since been able to pull out of poverty, and while they aren't rich, they are comfortable. And I've used a lot of what I experienced as a kid as motivation to be super careful with my money. I got a job in high school, worked odd jobs on the side, saved up every penny, rode my bike everywhere instead of driving and paying for gas, and by the time I moved out of my parents' place, I had a little over $17,000 in my savings. I don't have that much tucked away anymore, but I have investments and emergency funds, and take my family's finances incredibly seriously, as I never want my children to experience what I did as a kid. Mine and my husband's financial choices afforded us the opportunity to purchase a home in the beginnings of 2015, which we bought 50-50 with his mother. He paid his half up front, I made a large down payment, and his mother covered the rest with an escrow agreement that I would pay off what she had purchased. I have since completely paid my half, and the house is fully owned by myself and my husband. It's a 4-bedroom, 1.5 bath, 2-story home with a finished basement, attached 2-car garage on a double lot. We got the house for an absolute steal at only $118,000, for sale by owners. Since purchasing, we've installed a fence, updated the oven, washer and dryer, water heater, furnace, and paid for materials to have all the interior rooms repainted. The only updates it needs are purely cosmetic, as the exterior paint is an ugly brown-pink color, which we've started repainting and need to finish. The hardwood floors have some distortion due to being a 100-plus-year-old house and us having dogs when we lived there, and the bathroom could use an update, but structurally speaking, doesn't need one. Needless to say, on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being tear down the house and start over, and 5 being it's ready to put on the market to sell for $300K today, the house is sitting at a 3.5 to 4. Backstory complete, let's get into what has become my biggest headache for the past 4 years. I have a friend, let's call her Carly, female 27, who had incredibly similar experiences to me growing up, but struggles with finances and has never seemed to get the hang of keeping any sort of savings over $50 at a time. I'm not sure if it's a lack of self-control or that she's simply too focused on the moment when she gets paid and doesn't think to look into the long term, but she's consistently making her lack of funds everyone else's problem. I don't blame her for having issues with money, as learning to create a budget isn't exactly taught in school, and it took me years to learn to find a healthy balance, and the freedom of being able to buy whatever you want with no restrictions is super tempting. But at some point you have to learn to take responsibility. During the course of our friendship, I've helped her build countless budgets based off of my own. I made roughly the same amount of money as her, but each time they failed for whatever reason. We tried different ways to trick her brain into realizing that money sitting in her account wasn't to be touched, as everything needed to be used for bills, etc., and each time she would still wind up using every penny. It finally came to the point where I refused to help her with her budget anymore because she never listens to my advice. And when I pointed out the easiest and fastest method to get her spending under control was to get a payee, she said she didn't need to be treated like a child who receives an allowance. Fair enough. I washed my hands of that topic. Carly moved out of her mum's house a little over 6 years ago and into a mutual friend's place. Let's call her Tia, female 27. As far as I've been told by Tia, Carly paid little to nothing in rent, even though they both worked at the same company and made close to the same salary. Carly's living space was an absolute disaster. She moved into the basement, and it was lucky if there was even a walkway to get to the washer and dryer. She constantly asked me to come over to help her clean and organize her space, and because I'm a people pleaser, I would always agree. Each time we would make significant progress, but then by the next weekend when I would come over to help again, it was as if a tornado had gone through her space in the course of the week. I have no idea how she was able to fit so much stuff into that tiny space. She would never clean up on her own or make any sort of effort to put anything away, and would always wait for me to come over. And if anyone were to come down to watch us, it was always me cleaning or organizing while she sat back and dictated where everything went. Getting her to donate or throw anything away was like pulling teeth, as somehow even the smallest scrap of paper had some sort of sentimental value. After a little over a year of them living together, Tia couldn't handle it anymore and asked Carly to find some other living situation. She wasn't going to throw her onto the street, but she literally couldn't live with Carly any longer. There are a lot of other things that built up to this that caused this, but I won't go into that here. It just so happened that my husband and I had purchased a second home around this time. What we had owed on the first was paid off, my husband had come into an inheritance, and we were able to look for our forever home that fit better our wants and needs. The best part for us is that the new house was literally a 5-minute drive from the old house. We had yet to decide whether we wanted to sell or rent our first house when Carly approached us with the offer of renting it from us. She and 2 other friends were looking to move in together, and with the house being as big as it was, there was plenty of space for all of them to have their own room and privacy. Since we hadn't yet decided if we wanted to sell, and there were 3 renters already lined up, we decided to use it as a means of passive income to invest in our future, and then down the road we would revisit whether or not we wanted to sell it or keep it as a rental. The red flag that I didn't initially pick up on was that Carly was already referring to the house as her house to her 2 potential roommates even before moving in or signing a lease. So by the time it came to them all moving in, Carly had driven the other 2 girls to back out. The way I had written the original lease agreement was that the rent was flexible depending on how many tenants there were, so for the 3 of them, they would have only been paying $750 total per month, and if only one person was renting, it would be $400 per month. In this area, you can expect to rent a bedroom for $400, so this was a crazy good deal as we didn't really need the money, and it was mainly to pay for insurance, power, heat, and property taxes. In the 4 years that Carly has lived in that house, rent has gone up 4 times. Once to $500 a month because the power bill went up and we needed to adjust for that. The second time to $550 a month due to the same reason. The third time to $750 after she got a new job. And then last year in October. More on that later. Also in the 4 years she's lived here, 2 separate opportunities for roommates have backed out. Each time because she was setting the rules and referring to the property as her house, despite having zero claim to it, and the fact that each person would have their own lease agreement. When she first moved in, she was working a minimum wage paying job, and she was my friend. Hence the low monthly rent, but a year and a half ago got a new job at a local university, which was a 30-minute drive away, that pays very well and has great benefits. But somehow she manages to blow through her entire paycheck on I don't even know what. Also, during the course of these past 4 years, she wound up owing me $750 in back rent as she was repeatedly unable to pay me the full monthly amount due to repeated miscalculations in her budget and overspending on garbage, which she then stuffed into mine and my husband's property. My husband and I realized that after a couple of years of being landlords, that we aren't cut out for it. We have too much on our own plates and have no time for upkeep, and Carly wasn't holding up her end of the rental agreement that she had signed. We talked about it and settled on the decision to sell, but we of course didn't want to throw Carly onto the street and informed her of our plan. She proposed to buy it from us and started going through the route of getting a loan. During this process, she realized that the house wasn't what she wanted. She wanted land, and the house itself was far too big for her. She told us that, and we understood, and I even helped her drive her to meet with realtors so she could check out other options to buy houses elsewhere. But each one fell through, as she discovered that she wasn't going to get a new homeowner's discount or bargain with any loans that she looked at, and all of the loans required a minimum of a 10% down payment, which she of course didn't have. This is where the entitlement starts. Starts? Carly wasn't going to be able to buy a home, at least not the home that she wanted, and settled on buying our house. We had briefly talked at the very beginning of her tenancy that we may consider a rent-to-own situation, but no agreement had been made. No sale price had been decided, no appraisals or property inspections completed, nothing had been signed. It was simply a comment that we had made in passing and then chatted about later. Again, in passing. She took it as gospel truth and said that if she bought the house, that she expected the 2.5 years of rent she had paid us to be comped off the total sale of the house. I reminded her that we never signed anything about a rent to own and informed her that that wasn't how this was going to work. Her next tactic was to try to suggest that we quitclaim deed the property to her, again without her paying us anything additional to the 2.5 years worth of rent that she had already paid us. How this works is that whoever owns the property grants the title and deed to whoever they're giving it to, and it's generally a lot faster and cheaper than going through the process of buying a house, but there is still generally something paid for the property when the title is transferred. At this point, she'd only paid about $10,000 in rent, more than half of which went to paying for utilities that we covered instead of having her pay them, and property taxes. And she was making it sound as if she wasn't going to give us anything beyond that. I again told her that this would not be a viable option. The house was in great condition, and even with the exterior paint and repairs to the floors and bathroom, was worth at least what we had paid for it, $118,000. She tried to spin it that she was doing us a favor by taking it off our hands, as I had expressed to her that we were tired of being landlords and it was more effort than we had time for. Her last attempt at buying the house on her own was to offer me $1. That's right, a single dollar. I'll admit, I don't know if this was a failed joke attempt on her part, but it certainly fell flat, and I was so mad that I was shaking, though I laughed it off. Side note, during the time she's lived in the house, my husband and I have some stuff stored in the garage, as Carly parked on the street due to convenience, and she suggested on multiple occasions that she start charging us rent for storing things in our own house when none of it was in her way whatsoever, and we'd already made it clear that if she purchased the house, that we would remove all of our own property. At the end of 2022, Carly started dating Reggie, 28 male. They were long distance and would take turns visiting each other, and Carly made the comment to Reggie that we were looking to sell the house, and we threw out a couple of numbers, the very lowest being $100,000, but said that we of course would have to make an appraisal and look at market value, etc. He offered to buy it from us and said that he would start the process in March/April of 2023. I was relieved, my husband was relieved, Carly was relieved. Everything was looking great. Some information about Reggie at that time: he's a retired Marine. He gets a monthly check from the government for close to $2,000 on top of his well-paying job. I'm guessing based on what Carly told me, but at the time he made his offer, he was probably making between $4,500 to $5,000 a month. When March and April came around, Carly and Reggie informed us that he would not be able to afford paying both his rent where he lived and a monthly mortgage payment, and wouldn't be able to start the purchase process then, but would start the purchase process in October instead when he planned to move in with Carly. Before Reggie moved in, an ex-friend offered to rent a room in the house from Carly and pay her, despite subletting being clearly stated in the lease agreement as prohibited. Carly so generously offered to pay us some of the amount that she was paid. The agreement fell through, and the friend did not stay in the room. I'm not exactly sure why he chose to do things the way he did, but Reggie didn't start the purchase process at all until after he'd moved and quit his job, meaning the only source of income he had to show to a mortgage company was the monthly stipend from the government, which, even with a veteran's loan, doesn't work as proof of income. When he moved in, rent increased to $1,000 a month, which is still under the value for the size of the home, and a brand new rental agreement was written and signed, stating that if they had not started the buying process to purchase the house from us by mid-April of 2024, that we would not be renewing the lease, nor would we work with them on month-to-month rental options, as myself and my husband are completely and totally over this mess. We also stated in the rental agreements that we were not going to list the house for sale as a sign of good faith to allow Reggie and Carly first choice on the house to buy it. Here's a rapid-fire list of things that have happened since October. Reggie paid the $750 that Carly owed to me in back rent. Carly and Reggie informed us at some point, either late November or early December, that they would not be buying the house as the repairs required amounted to more than $50,000. I don't know where they got this number, as I've budgeted on multiple occasions to redo the flooring, and it would be less than $15,000 to redo the entire house. Nor would repainting cost more than a few thousand, or the bathroom remodel, as they intended to do the work themselves. We repaired the major damage in the bathroom recently for less than $500. They could not acquire rental housing due to having 3 cats, and will indeed be staying in the house. We informed them that we are not renewing the lease and reiterated our reasoning. I made the mistake of telling Carly what we owed on our mortgage, and they turned around and offered us $50,000 to buy the house from us, less than 1/3 the market value of the house if we sold it as is. We politely declined and then promptly went home and screamed into pillows. They have repeatedly told Tia that they are desperate for money to the point of debating setting up a GoFundMe, all the while Carly has gotten 2 brand new tattoos in the past year and has an international trip that she's paid for in full that she is going on at the end of March, and Reggie has still not acquired even a part-time job. We emergency installed a water heater that Reggie paid for that I will have fully paid back by the end of March. Carly quit her job, and now the only income they'll have at the end of this week is Reggie's military stipend. Carly nonchalantly stated that we would have to renegotiate rent for this month and next month. There will be no negotiations. She made a bad decision and will have to live with the consequences of her actions. The most recent thing she did was text me 2 days ago asking if she could pay me in food for this month's rent. Knowing her, the amount she will pay will amount to only a couple of meals and maybe $75 in groceries instead of the roughly $500 that they will owe. I owe Reggie roughly $500 left to pay off the last bit of the water heater. I jokingly answered that the electricity and insurance companies don't accept food as payment, so neither can I. She then offered to pay me what it would cost to pay these expenses, and then the rest she would pay in food. I have not responded. It's been a day and a half. They will pay me in cash and nothing else. I'm done. No discussion. My warning to all of you: don't mix business and friends without getting to know said friends very well first. If I had known what I would be walking into, I never would have allowed her to move in. In the comments, James says, "Why are you allowing her to dictate anything? Evict her, period." OP replies, "I'd love to, but where we live requires 60 days notice, and that gives them an in to stay past their lease." They conveniently dropped the news on me that she quit her job when it was too late for me to give the required time for written eviction notice. Excellent Ad asks, "Have you been inside the house since these 2 freeloaders moved in? I'm thinking that they may have destroyed some parts of the house, which is why they came up with the $50K in repairs. Let them know that either they get all their crap out, or you'll just put it out for the trash. If it's worth anything, you could sell it for some of the money that they owe you, but I would bet most of the stuff is just crap. If they don't move out when you say the contract is over, it is 100% time to evict them. But if that happens, check with a lawyer and see if you can cut off all utilities, water, electricity, gas, and any other utility. You want them out before they destroy the inside of the house. If they do, make sure to take pictures and put them on social media and let every one of your friends know exactly what she did. Make sure that no other friend is dumb enough to let them move in with them." OP replies, "Luckily, I have been inside the house, as I was there on Sunday and was able to do a quick walkthrough, and everything seems to be okay right now. But I'll keep that in mind for when we deliver the eviction letter." This is just all kinds of shit, isn't it? This is just not a cool situation to be in. OP, you just need a spine in this situation, and you can't keep pleasing this friend of yours because she's obviously taken a mile from every inch that you've given her. I don't know, it feels weird for me to be completely not involved in this situation and shitting you for doing this, when if I was in a situation like this, I'd have a hard time, setting up boundaries and enforcing them because I don't want to have to deal with this shit. I don't think I'm any better than you. I think that I would also allow something like this to happen, and I would also then get yelled at by my friends and family being like, "What's wrong with you? You're letting them take advantage of you, you idiots." Suffice to say, we're all human. I'm very much human myself, and I make mistakes. You've made many mistakes here by allowing them into your property and allowing things to continue. Thank you for coming to the internet as a source of what the hell do I do? Where do I go from here? Because sometimes that really is your only option. It's hard to break free of your own mental chains in a situation like this. But please take the advice that you're getting in the comments here and evict their asses. I swear to God, you deserve so much better than this. And now, onto the update. Good effing God. Thanks for all the comments. There was some great advice in there, and I appreciate it. I should clarify. The reason we let Carly move in the first place is because she made it sound like she literally had nowhere to go. She had spun a tale that her home life with her mum was not safe. Untrue. She made it sound like Tia was literally kicking her out that day. Also untrue. And she panically hounded me relentlessly in person and over the phone until my husband and I made a super quick decision to let her rent from us. I've learned this is a method of manipulation. I've reached out to an attorney, and we talked about everything that has happened. They read through the lease and gave us a few options. 1. We wait until May 1st when Carly and Reggie are supposed to be out of the house. If they are not out, deliver an intention to sell notice. That gives them 90 days to vacate the property after the lease is up. Not ideal. 2. We deliver the intent to sell now. That means they have until mid-June to get the hell out. Still not ideal, but better. If they're still in the house past the 90 days, we file unlawful detainer, and the cops forcibly kick them out. We can't evict them because we don't have the grounds. Even with all of this, the courts just about everywhere are against landlords and in favor of tenants. That the minute their rent is late, we then have grounds for eviction. That gives them 14 days to pay or get the hell out. But if they pay, the eviction process ends. Still not ideal. They can't get squatters' rights because they haven't been here for long enough. I'm going to tell her mother everything that she's done because I'm pretty sure she has no idea. I'm also telling all of our mutual friends. I've done a lot of self-reflection lately before writing this post and came to several conclusions. I know she's not my friend. I had a false idea that I was helping someone that I saw as a friend, and in the end, I enabled her shitty behavior. I'm aware that I'm a doormat. I know I don't know how to set boundaries. I spent a lot of time on the phone and in professional offices over the last few days. I'm on a waiting list to see a therapist and to learn to set boundaries because I don't ever want to teach my kids bad behaviors and habits that got me into this mess. And for all of you who mentioned that it was a miracle that my husband is still with me, he was with me along the whole process. I never did anything without his consent since we own the house 50-50. I'm taking most of the blame because Carly was my friend, and I've apologized to him, and we had a deep conversation about working on communication. He apologized for not seeing sooner that my friend wasn't who she claimed to be and didn't warn me that I was being manipulated. I'll update again when we get closer to May 1st, unless something happens sooner. OP made a final update on May 3rd, 2024, 2 months later, /same post. Update 2. This is hopefully the last update. Sorry it took so long to get back on here. They are out and have been since April 1st. And no, it wasn't a joke despite the date. Life has been insane, and I've been so overwhelmed with this whole situation that it's been hard to get back on here and face it all again. They left the house a mess, but that's not surprising. They claimed they didn't have the time or money to finish, even though there was a whole month left on their lease. Honestly, I'm happy that they're out, though I'm pissed about the mess. I'd rather clean up a bit instead of fight them to court to kick them out. I told her mum and showed her everything, and her mum was angry as well and told her off a couple of times for 1, leaving the house in the state that they did, and 2, treating me and others the way she has. I've also started therapy and am working on setting boundaries and getting over my people-pleasing. The last I spoke to Carly was yesterday because I learned from a friend that she joked about leaving the house a mess on purpose because she was mad at me. I confronted her and asked her why, even if it was a joke, because even jokes have some basis in truth. She said that it was because emotions were running high and she was stressed at the end when they were getting ready to leave, that she was frustrated with how little I did with the house while she was there, despite me repairing everything that needed it ASAP, and she was mad my husband and I stored some of our things in the garage. I explained that 1, it's our house, we can do that. 2, there was plenty of space in the garage for her things as well, and 3, none of her vehicles would have fit in the garage anyway, as they were all too long, and none of them ran, so she couldn't have even gotten them into the garage. Carly also had to junk out 2 of the vehicles that she left behind, even though she'd explained that she had someone who could keep them on their property so that she could work on them. I don't understand any of her logic. I'm done trying to figure it out. The last thing she said to me was that she was sorry, though I don't believe she genuinely is, and is just saying that to make herself feel better. Thanks to everyone that's read and commented and given advice. It's been greatly appreciated. Sorry if it's a bit anticlimactic of an ending, but I'm relieved that it's done. Some good news is that we're working with a buyer now and making steps towards selling for what the place is actually worth. In the comments, Thieving Willow says, "This is where the entitlement starts." Starts? Also, note to everyone, I have known a few people who rented after moving instead of selling. Most of them deeply regretted it. The one that didn't was paying a hefty chunk to a rental management company. He was keeping the house for his daughter and accepted that he would make very little money. Don't do this unless you're willing to treat it like the self-employed job that it is, including the possibility of losing money on your investment. I'll never understand why so many people do that instead of just selling it and sticking the money in an index fund, which requires literally zero effort and has no risk of shitty tenants or a horrible fire or empty months or any other bullshit. In the UK at least, you won't even make more money for your effort either. Quotes, "Carly's living space was an absolute disaster." That right there would have been a no for me. You don't care about the environment you live in. You're not coming in to wreck my home. The line that got me was, "If I'd known what I was walking into, and don't mix business with friends without getting to know said friend very well." But she did know. She walked into Carly's space every week. She tried multiple times to help Carly set and stick to the budgets that failed. She drove off potential roommates before they even moved in. The writing was all over the walls in giant letters, and then shocked Pikachu face when it went down the way that it did. I struggle with people-pleasing issues too, but even I would not have gone into this situation without very clear boundaries in writing. People-pleasing tendencies that powerful and self-destructive really call for something like an Alcohol's Anonymous sponsor that people can call before their conditioned responses fully take the wheel. Hi, Dave? I'm feeling really shaky right now. I think I'm on the verge of giving my tenant from hell, friend, keys to my property. Please help talk me down, buddy. I think that's personally some very good advice right there. I think if you do have addictive tendencies, having someone that is removed from the situation that can help talk you down would very much be a good coping mechanism for something like this. I'm surprised that something like that isn't more widely talked about because I could use someone like that. I'm sure there is so many other people out there that could use someone that can talk you out of bad decisions that you don't want to partake in yourself, but you're feeling guilted into. That's the last update that we have for now. I do hope that Carly is gone and stays gone, and that OP, you can process and heal from this and move on amicably, safely, and healthily. Anyway, guys, that's all I have for you today. I do hope you enjoyed the episode. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.